It's time for all things real estate. And our focus this morning, the Commission of Strata Corporations and annual returns. And the Commission of Strata Corporations is committed to offering efficient, timely, and customer-focused service to all members of executives of strata corporations, proprietors, and the public at large, whilst ensuring conformity with the Registration Strata Titles Act through the service of a motivated and a committed team. Strata corporations' annual returns are due April 1. However, corporations have up to 120 days to file their returns. But first of all, what is a strata and who should file this return? To discuss, we're being joined by the legal officer, Jared Johnson, in studio. Good morning to you, Jared.
Hi, good morning.
Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for joining us on Nationwide this morning for the all things real estate. First of all, as I said, let's begin here. What is a strata corporation?
Right. So a strata corporation, and the way that we typically think about it in the Jamaican context, when you think about things like, apartment complexes or commercial plazas with different shops, what a strata really is, in concept, it's a type of land ownership where essentially individual proprietors own lots on a parcel, and those are known as strata lots. And those are the lots that appear on a strata plan, and all of the proprietors, by virtue of being owners of those strata lots, also share in what's known as common property. So the common property is anything else that is on the parcel, essentially, that isn't an individually owned strata lot. So, think about things like your staircases, your parking lots. Some stratas might even have things like a pool or a gym or a guardhouse, even the front gate. All of those things that are there for the benefit of all the lot owners that are used by them. The corporation, which is really the body of all of the owners, all of the persons who hold strata lots, coming together. That strata corporation is responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of those common properties. And they do so in a number of ways. Probably the most overriding way they do so is through the convening of general meetings. In the same way how a company, any other company might have, an annual general meeting of the shareholders, for example. They make decisions on how to deal with the company's assets. The Strata Corporation has an annual general meeting in each year, in order to make decisions on how the common property should be administered, and also to approve a budget for the upcoming year. And that budget is particularly important because that determines the contributions that each strata proprietor must pay to the corporation into a common fund to maintain the common properties. So those things that we spoke about earlier in terms of the staircases, the parking lots, and the gate, of course. So those things, the money has to come from somewhere to maintain those things. So at every annual general meeting, a budget is passed by the corporation, which is the body of proprietors, and then that is apportioned up among the proprietors in accordance with what's known as their unit entitlement, which determines how much they might pay on, usually a monthly basis as their maintenance. When you hear your monthly maintenance, that's usually what you're speaking about. And also, a strata corporation, quite importantly, is governed by what are known as bylaws, which are essentially, rules and regulations that govern how the proprietors interact with each other. And how they are to treat with the common property in order to ensure that it's there for the use and enjoyment of all the proprietors who have a share in that common property.
So now, Jared, what if there's some sort of dispute with these common properties, the staircase and the gates and the guardhouse and all of that? I mean, how can the CSC intervene and quell these issues or these disputes?
Right. So it's a very live question because, as you would know, living in a strata corporation, using all of these shared spaces, proprietors are going to come into close interactions with each other.
Yeah.
And those interactions won't always go smoothly. So what the Commission of Strata Corporations offers as part of its mandate under the Registration Strata Titles Act is to facilitate the resolution of disputes as they arise from anything having to do with the act. So usually those disputes are received, from from a proprietor in a strata corporation who might be complaining against the strata corporation itself, or it might be between proprietor and proprietor. And how that is instituted is that whoever is the aggrieved party, they fill out what's known as the Form 10, which is the application for dispute resolution and order.
Numeral 10, Form 10?
Yeah, man, Form 10, 10.
Yeah.
And that is essentially how you make a formal complaint to the commission in relation to any number of issues that you might be having. So common disputes we might see, for example, one proprietor might be doing something that offends the bylaws of the corporation. Enforcing the bylaws is also one of the Commission of Strata Corporation's mandates. So what happens is that the parties are essentially summoned. They're all given an opportunity to be heard insofar as, what is the position, why this is so, whether this shouldn't be so. And then our facilitator or inspector makes an order in settlement, essentially, of those issues they have. And, I've seen even issues where, persons might be keeping animals on the common property,
yes,
or even in their strata lot that causes a nuisance to the proprietors.
Yeah. Like bylaws say no dogs.
Exactly. And certain things like even the parking spaces and how they're allotted, those are common things that the dispute resolution facility, it's a lot faster and more cost effective than going through the courts, for example. So the nominal fee that you pay for the dispute resolution, which I believe is 4,000 Jamaican dollars per dispute, it's a much more accessible route to justice when you're living in a strata property.
What if the dispute cannot be remedied? It's dragging out. You're having difficulties. What takes place next?
So there are a number of options that the Commission has in its regulatory toolkit,
yes,
which I wouldn't go into too much today, but one very common dispute that might not be able to be always settled through the dispute resolution process is outstanding contributions. So those contributions that I spoke about earlier, the monies that you must pay as a proprietor to maintain the common properties. I've seen situations where proprietors are, grossly delinquent in paying their fees. Sometimes they will even owe in the millions of dollars to the corporation, spanning back decades. So there are other facilities that the Commission offers. One of those is the issuance of a certificate of power of sale, for example, something that's a bit more stronger and a bit more direct. And how the power of sale, for example, works is that the corporation, who acts through its elected executive committee at the general meeting, would essentially notice that one proprietor has been delinquent in paying their maintenance for a period of 30 days or more. They would give written notice to that proprietor to say that you have been in arrears for 30 days. You have another 30 days to make good on your account and continuing. And if you don't do so, the strata corporation is going to proceed to exercise its power of sale. And that power of sale is very similar to, a mortgagee, like a financial institution or a bank, foreclosing on a property and selling it.
Yes.
The corporation can apply to the Commission for a certificate. And how that application works is the corporation shows that these are the amounts that were validly passed at the general meeting. The proprietor is in arrears. They have defaulted on their obligation to pay. They've been given the proper notice. Usually it's personal notice in writing, as well as affixing it to a conspicuous place on the strata lot. So you can't be said that they didn't see it. And then after that is done, once the Commission looks at the application and determines these are really the amounts that are owing, the proprietor hasn't settled the account, a certificate is issued to the corporation to say that they can sell the strata lot, without further reference to the proprietor by public auction or private treaty. And what happens is the proceeds of that sale first goes to settle all of the fees that are incidental to the sale. So your professional fees, your transfer tax, all of those things. Then it goes to the arrears, to clear off the arrears that the proprietor has had that were certified by the Commission. And then and only then at the end, if there's no mortgagee on the title, like a bank who has a mortgage, Only then would the remnants go to the proprietor, who at this point has essentially been expelled. And it's what I term the nuclear option, because it's usually the option of last resort when you have that kind of dispute when it comes to the money aspect. But it really just shows you how important it is to pay your maintenance, because if you're even 30 days in arrears, that process can start.
Yeah. So after you've exhausted all the other options, that could be one of the last steps that you take.
Yes.
So turning now, Jared, to the annual returns, which
Yes.
at the top of this segment we told our listeners we wanted to touch on. What are the annual returns and why is this important?
So the annual returns are filed by all strata corporations throughout the island with the Commission of Strata Corporations. It is a statutory duty that corporations have pursuant to the Registration Strata Titles Act. So in April 1 of each year, as you said, they become due. So the time is upon us now. And then, there is provision for an additional 120 days, which I believe takes us to the end of July in each year for them to if there's any financial statements that need to be audited, for example. And how the returns work, it's essentially, a declaration of all the activities of the Strata Corporation in the preceding year. So everything from your minutes of your general meetings, both your annual general meeting and any extraordinary general meetings you might have from time to time. Copies of the resolutions, which are the decisions the corporation would have voted on in the previous year. Your copy of your certificate of insurance, because unless all the proprietors decide to not insure the strata building, the corporation has a duty to keep it insured. And, that is renewed annually usually. And all of those things, the financials, of course, are also quite important. So your income and expenditure statements have to be filed in respect of the previous year to show, it's important because it really allows, the proprietors as well as the CSC, which is the regulator, to have this additional layer of transparency when it comes to the corporation. When you're paying into this pot for the monies to deal with the common areas, you want to know that your money isn't going to a black hole. So it's quite important, for corporations to comply so that the CSC can see as a regulator, if there's any severe anomalies that might need to be addressed. And we have a very well-equipped team of, inspectors who will look at the returns and review them on an annual basis to ensure that everything is on the up and up and that the corporations are, convening meetings with the proper procedure, following proper protocol when it comes to making decisions and all of those other things. And at the end of the process, it's not for nothing. If you're compliant in filing your annual returns, you get a nice shiny compliance certificate, which bodes well certainly for any proprietor who might want to sell or even rent their lot to someone. A more discerning tenant or prospective purchaser might even like to see the compliance certificate to know that this strata is one that is a well-oiled machine and it's compliant. It's not they don't have to worry about the commission to be breathing down their necks every year because they're following the protocols.
Yeah.
Yes.
And just to end, Jared, if there are any deficiencies in the filing, the things you just mentioned, something is missing out of the filing, how can the commission assist in that process?
So the commission has a number of ways that they can assist. So where we see glaring, deficiencies, we have steps where we, through our inspectors, we make certain outreaches to say that, these are the issues. This is how you can remedy it for, the upcoming period.
Yeah.
Walkthroughs and go-throughs are things that are quite common, as well as the fact that, throughout the year, the commission is, trying to keep up with its mandate to ensure that all strata corporations know what is required. So, even the annual workshops that we have, annual returns workshops we have quarterly, that are, extended as invitations to strata corporations where we see deficiencies. That is, one of those, facilities through which we assist strata corporations where we see that there are clear deficiencies. And if the other services, so the power of sale certificate or the dispute resolution process, are the stronger side of the commission, this is the lighter, more comforting, more accommodating side. And certainly, we have an open line for any questions that persons might have. So info@reb.gov.jm. That's our primary email address. You can also check the CSC's website at csc.gov.jm, where you can get a whole suite of all of the forms, all of the best practices and all of those other things as it relates to strata corporations and their filings.
That's Jared Johnson, the legal officer there at the Commission of Strata Corporations, who has been very helpful this morning in all things real estate. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you as well.